This is Single Status. Hello, Single Fam. How is it going? Welcome back. I am so excited that you're here. I love being here, and I personally love being in Orlando. I actually think what really drew me to this studio is their amazing cappuccinos, because the producer, Carlos, his wife, Carolina, makes these cappuccinos that are really incredible. And I keep hearing about these people buying these fancy cappuccino machines at their house. But I can't get one because I will literally be drinking them all the time and will be like coffee jitters all day long. So anyway, I love having this treat when I come into the studio. But anyway, I'm rambling. I am so happy you're here. And hey, before we jump into it, make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok if you don't already, at Samantha Vigneault, Vigneau. And if you're new here, like, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. And I would love to meet you. Reach out to me on social media and let me know your thoughts about the show. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, if you could go to my page and leave me a 5-star rating, because I know you want to do that, I would be so blessed if you did that. And also, if you're on Apple, if you could scroll down on the page, write a review, let me know your thoughts, let me know your feedback on the show. Guys, this is how the algorithm gets to more people, and how the show expands. So I would so much appreciate it if you did that. And if you're on YouTube, my YouTubers, hit subscribe, hit like, leave some comments, interact, let me know your thoughts. And yes, also make sure to share with the single friend, guys. Like, the single fam needs each other, dating, even if you're in like if you know someone in a relationship, like pre-marriage relationship, this is for dating, singleness, relationship. So definitely send to the single status people, I should say. All right. So guys, you're going to be blessed by this episode today, because I know I was really blessed by this episode. And I had the privilege of sitting down with Melissa Gambin, who is an incredible person. She's a mother of 3. She's married to a very successful entrepreneur. She's an entrepreneur herself. And she goes into her faith journey and her love story of meeting her husband, and the struggles that they had in their season of waiting, how she overcame that, and we talk about building wealth and having a wealth mindset. So I think you will be really blessed with this episode. She also has a really large following on Instagram, and she's into interior design. She's really good at it. And yes, I think that you'll be really blessed with this episode. So I hope you enjoy it. Melissa, I am so happy that you're here with us. Thanks for coming in. I feel like I know you because I listen to Invest the Difference podcast. If you're a business person and you want to learn more about business, that's her husband's podcast. And I just feel like I know about you, all about you and the kids, because he's always talking about his amazing wife and everything. So I'm so happy you are here today.
Let's hope I don't disappoint. We'll see. That's always the danger. Is he's so kind and generous with his words that then you're like, oh, I hope this measures up.
Well, I love you so far, and I'm so happy to sit down with you. So I kind of want to start with your love story and like pre-Claudio life. Claudio's your husband.
Yeah.
And what like life was before him, and then how you met. So let's start there.
Yeah. Well, it was funny when we were first talking about me coming on the podcast, I looked at the name of it and I was like, in the interest of transparency, I am not single. Like, help me understand where we're going here. So we've been married 13 years this past December. So about, a year and a half now. I was a child bride, as you can tell. No, but I was 21 when we got married.
Wow.
So
I saw that, I think, on Instagram or something. I
Mhm.
noticed, or I don't know what I saw, but I noticed you guys look really young in your wedding photos.
Yes.
I was
What do you mean I don't look the same? What are you talking about? No, it's funny because now we have 3 daughters and we waited a good bit. We were married 7 years before we had our oldest daughter.
Okay.
So
So you were 29?
28.
28,
So we're
29.
almost at the point where we were without children for half our marriage and have now had children for half our marriage, which is an interesting dynamic.
Interesting.
And it does very much feel like we are seeing 2 sides of a coin, because it was a very different life before that.
Mhm.
So I say that all to say I don't have a ton of adult life without Claudio, which is sweet in a way. But there's definitely stuff there and definitely stuff
Mhm.
that I think applies for the podcast.
And I think before you even go into it,
yeah,
I also think a lot of people can relate to, yes, you were married at 21, but
Mhm.
you waited to have kids until
Yeah.
later on in life.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting to talk more
Yeah.
about too. And just so you know, I really love hearing from all, walks of life, because I know a lot of me and a lot of the listeners, like, we do desire marriage. So
Mm.
I like sitting down with married people, single people in all different, seasons, because I
Yeah.
think it's important.
I think there's a lot of wisdom there.
Yes,
That's really smart on
definitely.
your behalf. Well, I dated well, it's interesting. I don't want to speak for him too much, but we both dated people from high school and into college, both for about 4 years,
Okay.
which was interesting because I was never someone that was like, I'm going to marry my college sweetheart or my high school sweetheart. We dated from high school and into college, but that was not really like on my radar. I was
Right.
like, we're great. We'll keep hanging out. But I wasn't like, he's who I'm going to marry. I don't know what it was like for Claudio. It's interesting because that's how we know each other, is who he dated.
Oh, wow.
And this is not a boyfriend stealing situation. I would like to clarify.
You were young, so if
We
there
were
was
very
that,
young,
then,
but
you
I did
know.
all-star cheerleading and gymnastics growing up pretty seriously, kind of like Dance Moms, where you're in the gym.
I love Dance Moms.
I know, it's so good. But you're in the gym 5 days a week. Every weekend you're out doing competitions.
Yeah.
So this was like our very intense life of this cheerleading team.
Wow.
So he dated a girl on my all-star team. We went to
Okay.
different high schools, which is why I didn't know him very well. And then we were back in Orlando for Christmas break my sophomore year of college. And we were at Devaney's too by UCF, a really classy joint where your feet stick to the floor. I think it's burned down now, but it was great. And it was funny because talk about divine intervention. I wasn't planning on going anywhere. It was the 23rd of December. You know,
Wow.
I was already in my pajamas, and one of my oldest and closest friends, Sasha, calls me and is like, you got to come out with us. And I'm like, no.
Oh
and
my
she's like,
gosh.
if you don't come out with us, I'm coming and I'm getting you. And I'm at my parents'
Wow.
house. And I'm like, okay, fine, begrudgingly. And was thinking, oh, I'll go out for an hour with my friends and just kind of hang out and go home. And sure enough, he's like, hi, I'm Claudio. And literally my response to him was like, oh, you're Taylor's boyfriend. Yeah, nice to see you again. That's who he was in my head.
Yes.
Taylor's boyfriend. And he was like, oh, we're actually not together anymore and blah, blah, blah. And later on in
Wow.
the night, can I get your number? And I was getting out of the 4-year relationship a few months before that, maybe 6 months before. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. And he kind of was sweet throughout the night. And he ended up knowing a few of my other very good girlfriends, Ashley that was there, and Sonia, and all these other people. And I was kind of like, okay, character-wise, if he's good with these people, it just kind of, adds on. I'm like, okay, well, I can see this guy's nice. And coming out of the 4-year relationship, I had a very different set of standards I was looking for, because I did date someone for so long and really gave my heart away. And I was like, I'm going to do this a little differently.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I finally am giving him my number. I'm putting it in his phone, and another girl calls, and it's like 12:30 at night. So,
right.
If another girl is calling you.
What is this?
Yeah, like, what is happening here? And right as I hit send is when she started calling in. I think it said Ashley or Lauren. I don't know, something like that. And I turned to him and I said, don't bother using the number. And he was like, oh, you can just see he's heartbroken, you know?
That's so funny.
And he kind of schmoozed things over. And he was like, oh, come out, grab a bite with us. And I was like, yeah, I'll meet you there.
And you never went.
I never went.
That's hilarious.
But he was really persistent. And yeah, our first official date was on Christmas night.
Wow. Oh, that's romantic.
Yeah.
It wasn't romantic?
At the time, it was kind of like whatever, what's open. Like
Yeah.
the movie theater, fun fact, is open on Christmas night.
So wait, let's pause here
Yeah.
because I think there's a couple little gold nuggets in
Pearls.
this.
Yeah.
Ladies and guys, singles out there, if someone's, pulling you to get out of the house, like go, because you never know what's
Yeah.
going to happen. Like get
Yeah.
out of the house and go meet different people, go out with your
Mhm.
friends, and don't sit inside and, stay to yourself all the time. We got to get out and meet people. And then also men, like be persistent. If you see something you like, be
Yeah.
persistent.
Yeah.
Persistence works. Don't be creepy, but be persistent.
That's a really wise caveat on that because, please don't be a stalker.
Don't be a stalker. You know if someone's like completely not into
Yeah.
you, don't be creepy, but
Yeah. It's like that.
Be
I'm sure you've seen
persistent.
he's just not that into you.
yes.
I do kind of think that's true, though. Especially there's so much in today's society that it's, I believe, I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, I'm sure, but I believe are trying to make men weak. And
Yes.
we don't need more weak men in the world. We
No.
need strong men. And I am
Yes.
not talking about stalkers and I am not talking about being sexually aggressive by any
Right.
means. But especially guys, like if you see something you want, go after it. Be willing to get your
Yes.
heart broken. And
Yeah.
I'll be real with you. I don't think if he was as persistent, we would be here today.
Yeah.
But
wow.
he was. And he really chased after my heart. And, not to make things too churchy off the bat, but it's like Christ-like. He went
Yes.
after my heart in the same way that Christ goes after our heart, and he doesn't take no for an answer. And he's like, no, you're my beloved,
Yeah.
and here we go.
He who finds a wife finds a good thing.
Mhm.
Men, you are the chasers.
Yeah.
You have to go out and get what you want.
Yeah.
Ask women on dates.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because,
think
I
that's
mean,
so true.
yes, just keep asking them on dates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So you go on this date on Christmas and
Mhm.
then, or on Christmas Eve, was it?
Christmas night.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so how did the relationship progress to marriage? So how old
Um,
were you at this point? You're a sophomore.
I was 19.
Wow. So you're really
he was
young.
21. He was older than me.
And so was he a junior or senior?
I don't know what he was supposed to be, but we were the same year in school. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, so he was a little behind in school. He's a
was
very
trying his
successful
best.
man, so
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, anyways.
Now he is. Yes.
Yes, he's doing great now.
Yes. Okay.
He jokes that he would have never passed college, and he gives me way too much credit. He always says oh, if it wasn't for you,
Did he go to college?
He did. We both
Okay,
ended
and
up graduating from UCF.
Okay.
But he did FSU, he did Valencia at one point, and UCF. I spent the first 2 years of my bachelor's at FAU. I was a cheerleader in college down there, and then transferred back to UCF as well.
Okay.
Yeah, he gives me way too much credit, but he's such a smart guy. He's like the one that if he cares about something, he's the most brilliant man in the room, will know everything about it. But if he is checked out, and that was school for him, he was like,
Yeah.
listen, guys. And it's
I'm
still
done
to
with
this day,
school.
he's like, I could have been doing what I'm doing without college. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
A lot of business people think that because really in
Yeah.
business, you can learn everything on the job. You can learn from
Absolutely.
podcasts, books, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like medical school or something. So
Yeah.
it ends up being, and if you're a good business person, you're like, okay, that was a waste of money.
Yeah. I think
I just paid $50,000 for something I could have learned. I went to, have fun or whatever, but I could
Yeah.
have learned this on the job. But,
Totally. That's
yeah.
exactly it. You hit the
Yeah.
nail on the head.
So how did your relationship progress so quickly to marriage at that point?
Like I said in the beginning, so I think that leaving my 4-year relationship, granted I was very young, but I think I had a renewed vision for Christ. And we had a little bit of a different start with Jesus. I was raised in the church.
Yeah.
And there was ebbs and flows to that relationship where I obviously as a young person, it's different in general.
Right.
But stronger walks with Christ, less strong of a walk with Christ. And it was leaving that relationship that I feel like I had a renewed vision for what I wanted in my life.
Okay.
And I was like, I want a man who has a heart for God.
Mm-hmm.
I want a marriage that is for God. I want someone leading me, and was very straightforward with him on our first date. We went into a movie and everything was closed, but then we walked Park Avenue. And we probably talked for 2 hours on that walk, and was very straightforward with him. I was like, I need to tell you I'm dating other people right now. This is what I want.
That's
I'm not
mature for a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
That is very mature. So keep going. Sorry.
I've
Because
always
at
been a little
19,
bit
I
of a
was
40-year-old in my head. I have been told that regularly. But yeah, I was like, this is what I want out of life. I'm dating other people. I kind of want to get a taste for what's out there. I've been in this relationship for 4 years. I'm not going to sleep with you. Like all of the things that I wasn't trying to push him away, but
You're being straight up.
Yeah, I was just being straight up, and not in an aggressive way. He might say it was aggressive, but in my heart, I didn't intend to be aggressive. It was just, hey, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is who I stand for. Would love if you want to keep leaning into this, but let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
And on our first date, he goes, we're going to get married. And I was like, did you not just hear what I'm literally telling you I'm dating other people. So I remember at the time kind of being like, okay, but it also didn't feel scary when he said that. I was kind of like, all right. And
I feel like men, I just did an interview yesterday with a man, and he said on the first date he knew too. Yeah. I feel like they know quickly.
I don't know.
Sometimes.
I also think there's something to the whole like men / certain personalities wanting what they can't have. And since I was like, which was not my intention.
I'm not going to sleep with you. I'm not going to, he was probably like, oh, I want her more.
Yeah, 100%.
She doesn't like me. I want her more.
Which is funny because I think that is so Claudio's personality. And I did not know that at the time, but God's divine intervention, I don't know. Like it worked out.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So then you get married at 21.
Yeah.
And so how was it getting married young? Because I hear, mixed reviews of, people married young feel like it was too young, or, like, I guess what's your thoughts on it now looking back?
I think that marriage is a journey together, but I think marriage and relationships and parenthood and all of it, it magnifies your own selfishness. It's all a, it's like that coal and diamond analogy where it puts on the pressure and it turns you into a diamond. And I really think it is a Holy Spirit supernatural process that changes who you are.
Wow.
So I say that all to say that I don't think it's not about your age that you get married. Mm-hmm. Yes, is there factors that contribute to that, and maturity and all the things? Yeah, I do think that matters, but I don't think you get any sort of guaranteed whether you're married at 19 or 40.
Yeah.
I think that it's still a process that you have to be willing to go through, that Christ is sanctifying you in the process. And if you resist that sanctification, if you resist that willingness to change, it can, and both people talk about in marriage, if you both resist that and you're both not trying to move towards Christ together, I think that's where divorce happens. I think that's where it's hard no matter what, but I think that's where a lot of people say, oh, as an excuse, I shouldn't say excuse, because there's a lot of very hurtful, hard reasons for divorce, but I think that's where people can look back in hindsight and say, I was too young, or, oh, we were so old when we got married, we were set in our ways. Like there's all these kind of reasons to say a certain age is better. And I think what is key is aligning yourself to Christ and God's plan for your life, and then truly submitting to saying, I will walk in whatever your best is for me, God.
Right.
And even though I did not, this is something I was thinking about coming on here today that I was going to share, and I'm happy to talk about or not talk about, but I have not had a season of singleness. Mm-hmm. But as I was meditating on our time together today, I have had many seasons where Christ did not deliver in a way that I thought he would.
Wow.
and the heartbreak of what that really is.
Mm.
And having to turn and say, God, I am still going to choose you, and I'm going to believe that you are good, regardless of where I am at.
Yeah.
Because that is not easy.
No.
And I truly believe that in life we're living in two camps. We either choose to believe that he is good, or we don't.
Right.
And I am not minimizing the hurt and the painfulness of that in between, that
Right.
wilderness season. But I think that I know that he loves us regardless. You know what I mean?
That's so good. And I'm so happy you said that, because there are a lot of, married people that listen to this show, or obviously a lot of single people, or people that are waiting on a child, or
Yes.
maybe that sanctification process that you're talking about. It's surrendering to wherever God has you and knowing that his plan is best. And it's never too late. Like you're talking about you and, Claudio submitting to the Lord's process and going through that sanctification together. Like no matter what season you're in, maybe you're, in your 40s or 50s or 60s listening, like it is never too late to surrender to that.
If your feet
process.
are on this earth, God's still doing work in your heart and in your life, or with your life.
Yes.
So talk about a check-in for just all the things. And, we were talking before this about needing to check in with where God has you and knowing where your value is, and knowing there's just so much stuff he's trying to teach us. And what I was going to say that I was going to share earlier is, when Claudio and I met was at a point when I felt like I was really moving towards Christ in such a big way.
Mm-hmm.
And not because of Claudio or our relationship, but kind of did the ebb and flow of that. And then another point when I had just walked into my faith in such a strong way and felt like I was walking with Christ in such a strong way, was in a season maybe 6 to 8 months before we lost our first baby.
Mm.
And I remember just struggling with believing that God was good and that he was faithful and that he would walk me through the desire of my heart to have a child.
Yeah.
And that he would somehow make that whole.
Wow.
And what that would look like, and just crying out to him and saying, I'm choosing to believe you're good.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's so much power in that, because, even with like being single and at 31, I thought I would be married at 25, 26, whatever. And you go through this process. I remember like crying out to God and not being able to sleep for a few years.
Yeah.
I feel like this conversation is bringing me to tears.
No,
but
it's good.
Like that time it's heartbreaking, but it's so precious.
Yes.
I keep hearing that word precious, because when you are in a season of waiting, it's the time where you get so close to the Lord. And when you choose to say, Lord, I don't understand. I don't know why you're withholding this from me, but I still am going to follow you and I'm still going to trust you. That is when just things shift and you just have this deep peace in your soul. It is supernatural. Yes.
I just said this to a friend last week. She's going through a really hard season, and someone who has followed Christ, and they had a Christ-centered marriage, and he has made different choices that obviously affected her. And it's just, nothing's a guarantee.
Right.
And so I think back on that time when we had lost our baby, and I would not wish that on my worst enemy,
Yeah.
But I do think that there is this sweetness that I can look back on fondly and with gratitude in my heart, because of how the Lord changed me in that process.
Wow, yeah.
Truly, I think a lot of Christians think like, oh, when I accept Christ, that's when I'm a new creation. And that is true. But I think he is constantly refining us.
The process.
And I look back on the fact that was pre-children, and he refined me and made me into a different person in a lot of ways before I had my first daughter. And I am not a perfect mom by any means.
Right.
But he did make a major life shift for me.
Yes.
He put a softness and a kindness in my heart and in my spirit that I'm grateful I have in my motherhood, that I think had I had the sharpness that I had before,
Mm-hmm.
I could have looked back on motherhood with a lot of regret.
Wow.
And how I would have treated my most precious, my children. And God was so gentle with me. And that's the other thing.
Yeah.
I desire to be gentle with my children and so kind with them. And he is that kind to us. So even in our most painful moments, thinking and believing that he is choosing this path, he's allowing this path. I shouldn't say choosing. Some paths he allows.
Yeah.
But he is allowing this path, but I believe he's doing it in the most kind way he possibly
Right.
can. We're his beloved. You know what I mean?
Right. Because he loves us so much and cherishes us. And while you were talking, I just kept thinking, I think it's John 15, the vine and the branches and the pruning process. And it's those seasons of waiting or hardships where we don't even notice things in us that need to be cut off. So if you study like how grapes and wine are made, you have to prune the branches in order for good fruitful branches to grow good fruit. And that pruning process, it can be so hard and so heartbreaking, but then you look back and you're like, whoa, like I'm a different person because of this. And the fruit and the heart now you have for other people going through, people who have lost a child or waiting on something. Now you have this heart for them that you didn't understand before.
Totally. And I think one of the trickiest parts, and let me be careful how I say this. So there's also the analogy of the wheat. The wheat falls on the ground and it dies. And if the wheat falls on the ground, it becomes so many seeds that it never could have been when it was living, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the submission, and this is a tricky thing when you're in a wilderness season, so I don't want to minimize the pain that can be there.
Yeah.
But the desire of your heart might not look the way you think it's going to.
That's good.
And that is a really hard thing to submit to. I'm not minimizing that. But I think there's so much goodness and peace in submitting to that. Because I think one of the hard parts is whether it's waiting on marriage or a child or a certain outcome. Like I think I don't want to minimize also the blessing of having children, having marriage, and there are blessings there. But there are certain things even within a situation that you think is your ideal that you're like, but once you get there, then you're like, oh, I wish it was this. I think that stepping back and saying, God has me exactly right here for a reason. And even if I never shift from this position, let me pray and let me believe that he is going to shift my internal world into learning the things he wants me to learn right now, being the person he wants me to be, that even if I never move from this position, that he will fulfill my heart in ways and beyond my wildest dreams.
And it reminds me of when I was with my ex, who I was with for a long time, and all the listeners know I talk about that quite a bit. I had it so set, like we were going to get married, we were going to have kids. I thought I was going to spend my life with this man. And my prayers were always, this is, so the law of attraction, like I do believe in, believe what you want to attract, but the one thing missing from it is God, the law of attraction, because I was so set on this is how my life will look. These are the desires of my heart. I'm going to marry him. Like, Lord, let's move this forward. Like, Lord, what are we doing? Every night I would pray, Lord, this has to work. Like, I pray for marriage with him. I pray for kids with him. I pray for, and then finally, after like years of doing that, I finally was like, Lord, I submit to you. I submit my desires to you. Even if I need to, move on or he's not right for me at this point, I trust you and your plan and that you know what's best for me, that I don't know what's best for myself at this point. So I just trust you no matter what, no matter how hard it is, I'm going to move forward with what you want. So break us up if you need to break us up.
Oh, wow.
And that literally shifted everything. Like we tried so hard, but in the end, it wasn't meant to be. Like God had something different for both of us.
Wow. That is so beautiful.
Yeah. So what you're saying,
And not an easy process.
it's
for
so
anyone in the midst of
hard,
that,
yeah.
it's like you could hear your beautiful surrender, but to do that in an authentic way is not a one-time conversation.
Right.
It's truly
not.
taking the next right step and saying, I'm going to step out in faith in this way. Whatever you have for me. It's like, what's the Indiana Jones movie where they walk across the clear bridge? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know. Is
Oh
it
my
Jumanji?
gosh.
No.
No, it's an Indiana Jones movie. I forget which one it is.
Indiana Jones.
Oh, I'm so old. I turned 35 on Thursday. And that's even an old movie for me.
I'm not really a movie person, though, so.
All right, well, I'm your guest, but I'm giving you homework to go watch Indiana Jones because
Okay.
they're great. But yeah, I forget which movie it is. I'm someone that's listening to this is like screaming it at me because it's so
Wait, are
obvious.
you talking about walking on and the bridge is falling behind them?
No, it's like a clear one. It's
Okay.
it's I think it's the cup, the chalice. Oh my gosh, what is it called? The Holy Grail. I don't
Okay.
know. I think it's Holy Grail, but who knows? Now I need to go watch it. But anyways, it's basically this clear bridge that you can't see, and Harrison Ford throws the dust on it to see where to walk. But the whole point is walking on faith is one of the big things that it talks about, and that's truly what it is. It's all of us day by day, and I think that's one of the issues with our society today. And I'm gonna get myself in trouble, but I'm just gonna speak my heart, know where I'm coming from. It's the fear with COVID, and it's the fear lifestyle that we have to be sanitizing ourselves and our hands and our lifestyle every step of the way. And that is no way to live. That is not what we are called to. Yes, there's wisdom there. And I'm not saying that the whole COVID narrative was bad-ish. But I don't think that's what we're called to.
We shouldn't live in fear.
We shouldn't live in fear. God does not call us to live in fear. And there's wisdom. I'm not saying don't have wisdom at all.
Right.
But I'm saying that when we live in fear, I think we get the worst versions of ourselves and others. And even like as a mom, I think that's one of the biggest things that we see. And there's a lot of fear mongering around children and birth and all this stuff. And it's like, that is not
it's even
what we're called to.
Right. With dating, it's where a lot of us are dating out of fear. I don't want to be alone.
I don't want to get past 30 without a marriage and kids.
I need to have kids
like,
by this age. I need to find a man. So now I'm settling, and then you're in this relationship you don't want to be in, or that's why divorce is probably, 50% of people get divorced. It's probably because a lot of us are making decisions out of fear.
Absolutely. I think you're so wise in that assessment. And and that goes on to everything. Right now, there's a desire in your heart for marriage and family, but even moving into it. And it's like you carry those same things beyond. And before that, people that are in high school, don't make your decisions on who you're going to date or what college you're going to go to based on fear. And imagine people's potential. If you were not living in a place of fear, if you were really going after what you want, I think that we also might tap into our God-given right.
Yes.
I think
and
that
purpose.
and purpose. We're created for so much more.
So much more.
I mean, I could go into this, but I think so much of the college system is absolutely garbage. And they try to sell you with this very expensive degree on this pipe dream and security that you're going to be fine in life. And all they're doing is fear mongering and putting you in debt.
Yeah.
If you need college for life, great. Go study something and learn and become wise. There is so much value in that. But you also don't need to tell people that they have no value without a master's degree.
Last Crusade was the movie that we were talking about.
Bless. We needed to know it.
Yep.
Let's all go watch. Let's do a refresh.
Yes, I'll have to watch it.
Which this is not a Christian show, so I'm not, whatever.
Yep.
But Harrison Ford is also in Shrinking. Have you seen the show? I think it's on Netflix.
No, I haven't. I don't watch a lot.
Not a Christian show. I'm not necessarily saying, but for good entertainment, it's so good. And I'm so nostalgic seeing Harrison Ford. God, he's just... I think my husband's the most attractive man, but if there is an attractive older man, it is Harrison Ford.
He is really, really attractive.
He just ages real well.
Yeah.
Like
men age really well with the gray hair. And
I think we should speak that into existence for ourselves. Lord, if it would be your will, women also age well.
Yes.
Now going forward.
You know what? I was about to go into this, but yes.
Sorry.
No, I have been really working on that
Yeah.
because I think that we women, we think, oh my gosh, my life gets worse and worse as I get older.
That's
And
society.
I'm
Such
done,
a lie.
I'm done with that lie. And
Yeah.
and also we think that beauty is our worth.
Oh, yeah.
So we're so
Also
scared to
society.
age.
Yeah.
And I'm at this point where I rebuke that. And
I do rebuke that in the name
yes,
of Christ Jesus. Yeah,
yes,
that is
and
not that.
I will sit in my house and be like, life is getting better year by year.
Yeah.
I am getting more confident year by year.
Yeah.
Like God has so much. I haven't even seen the best for my life yet.
The plans He has for you.
The plans He has are so much greater.
Yep.
So yes, everyone out there, if you're a woman, like agree with heaven on that.
Yes.
Agree with God, because there's so much more for you, and life gets so much better as we get wiser.
You know what's even a societal testament to that is the interpretation of beauty.
Yeah.
Just look at the past 200 years. And I know that feels long because we only live, 80 to 90 years. But if you look at the definition of beauty over the past 200 years, it has shifted so many times that it's like, why are we chasing this conventional version of beauty when 200 years ago, the fattest woman in the room was the most attractive?
Yes.
Like, it's just, this is so silly. Like, we're chasing our tail, and it's like, you want to know, not that it just matters when a man is attracted to, but you want to know what a man's attracted to? Someone who loves herself.
Yes.
And someone who's not self-centered. And I know those sound like they could be opposites, but they're not.
No.
Someone who knows who her identity is in Christ.
Yes.
And walks in that is extremely attractive.
Yes, and the same for men. Like, confidence is attractive.
Yes, totally.
And knowing who you are is attractive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, please tell us what I interrupted you 85 times
it's okay.
on.
No. So I was reading your bio, and you are an interior design consultant. Is that your title? Did I mess it up?
Interior designer.
Interior designer.
Anything's fine.
Yes, and your husband is a really successful entrepreneur, and I'm sure you're heavily involved in everything he's doing. And you were in medical sales for 7 years before you had children.
Yeah.
And I literally was tearing up when I was reading your bio, because I immediately thought of the Proverbs 31 woman. And I think that a lot of times when we read Proverbs 31 and we think of this woman, we concentrate on the character of her. And yes, we want to have good character. Like, that is important. But if you really read into it, it's about a woman, a businesswoman, a business thinker, a strategic thinker for her family, planning for her family. And specifically, Proverbs 31 verse 16, I thought of, she considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. And, as a single woman at 31, again, I never thought I'd be single at this age. I thought I'd have kids by now and everything. But every decision I've made in work, in buying a house a couple years ago, in investing for my retirement, I'm, doing it for myself, because that's smart to do that for myself. But I'm also thinking of my future, my family, my future family. When I do have kids, I can relax a little more because I've made these investments, and I'm thinking of the inheritance I can leave for my family, even when I'm single.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of single people, or people waiting on kids that may have been married young, waiting on kids or something, we think, oh, I'll do that later. But it's
life hasn't started yet.
Yes, in this verse, it's so good. And read through, if you're listening, read through entire Proverbs 31, because this is a woman that is strategic and a business thinker and thinking about how can I build wealth for my family. And it says she considers a field and bought it. It doesn't say her husband did.
She went to her daddy and got it. No.
Yeah. And I thought of you, and I was like, and how Claudio talks about you and everything. And
that's so kind.
Yeah. So what was your, as you were, in medical sales and everything? And
just the fact that anything about me made you think of the Proverbs 31 woman fills my heart so much. I'm like, life goals, check. No, you know what? It didn't feel, I don't want to give myself too much credit. It didn't feel like that at the time.
Yeah.
At the time, we first got married with this teeny tiny duplex off Anderson, on the wrong side of 408. It was very questionable neighbors. But also it was a really sweet time. We couldn't even fit our, I think we had a full-size bed, not even a queen. We couldn't even fit it in the room where we could open and close the door. We just had to leave the door like open all the time in the bedroom because it was so small.
Yeah.
And then there was like little closets and you could like barely walk around. There was no nightstands or anything like that. And we loved it, and it was so simple. We were still in college when we first got married because I decided to stay on and do an additional sales track program at UCF. Okay. And I also had an internship with Lockheed Martin because I was like, I don't know, they pay well. But I think Claudia was working as an intern at the time in finance, making nothing, like literally nothing. And then I made like $1,000 a month or something like that. It was crazy. So I was very fortunate growing up, but got nothing when I left the house, which is fine. It was just like, okay, good luck to you.
Right.
Not nothing. They gave me an education.
Right.
That's not true. I paid for that actually. But
they brought you up with good
I don't
character.
mean that with sass. Yeah. They
I was
me up
the
with
same
good
way.
character.
My parents didn't just, they didn't have the means to give me everything when I was,
They gave me a car. That was a huge leg up. Okay, they gave me a car
too.
But yeah, and so I just, you know what they gave me? They gave me vision that I could go out and do things.
Yeah.
And they were such hard workers, and they were always grinding and talking to me about how I'm going to make money and how I'm going to earn. And Claudio, his upbringing was very much like that too. And so I was content and happy in our life, but I think we both also had vision for what we wanted. And from the sales track program, really went after this medical sales job with a vengeance, got it, and then just worked. And I don't think either of us had this like major vision for like, I'm going to make all the money and I'm going to fund you so that you can really set up your business right. Like, I don't even think either of us were wise enough to have that kind of vision, to be honest. But I do think it was very much, Jesus just holding us and saying, I have something for you. We were very lucky and we were very blessed.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine to say we were in a season of just being blessed, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think when you're submitted to God's process, every little experience matters. Yeah. Like this podcast, there's no way I would have the confidence or the money to start it if I didn't have my 10 years of business experience.
Totally.
And so people always ask, like, how do you know your purpose? Or how do I, if I don't like my job, like, how do I, it's like your job is paying your bills.
Yeah.
And God has you there for a reason.
Totally.
And you're learning for your future.
Yeah.
He may have something in store for you that now you have this knowledge now, and this, so you may not feel like it's your purpose right now, but like there is purpose in it, know?
Yeah.
So how was that transition to like entrepreneurship and building wealth? How has that been for you as a couple? Because I know as it doesn't even matter if you're married or single, like anyone that, has dreams or aspirations to build something, like it's interesting to hear from you how that process was.
I once heard that money, I don't remember if it was Dave Ramsey, to be honest. Maybe it was. But I once heard that money just is a magnifier. That whatever's already there, it magnifies it. If someone has awful character and you give a bunch of money, not a good situation. If someone has great character and you give them money, they do cool things with it. I do think it doesn't matter if you have a little bit of money or a lot of money. It's just a tricky thing. You know what I mean? Because there's always something else. It can always be a conflict point. I think some people think if you get to a certain level of wealth that a lot of your problems go away. And that's kind of true in the sense that you're not stressing over paying for groceries or paying your rent. But also like more money, bigger problems. More money, more problems. It's a biggie. Big smalls. It's kind of the same thing. It's just, you walk through it and there's beauty there. And I think that stepping back and saying that this is not ours, this is something that we're being entrusted with is the best perspective. And I think that's the biblical perspective. Do we always have that perspective? No, we are not perfect in our faith.
Right.
But it is a true north that we come back to, that we're like, this is what we're being trusted with. Who is God calling us to be? How does he call us to be it?
Yes.
What does that need to look like?
Yeah.
One of the best things that I think we've done as a couple and as married people is regularly coming together. And this is where Dave Ramsey comes into it. We did the Financial Peace University when we were, married 2 years, 3 years, something like that. And it was a total random coincidence, but really was very foundational to us making good choices from the beginning. We did it very strictly in the beginning because we had no money. We literally had the envelopes of cash and was like, this is for groceries and this is for rent and this is whatever. I remember I was driving this like 1982 pickup truck and sorry, this is a tangent, but I'll come back to it. It had no cup holders in it. And I was driving to my like internship at Lockheed Martin and I was holding my coffee between my legs with no cup holders. And I like get out of the car and the coffee goes everywhere all over me. Wow. And I just like, it was like already a bad time. And I like break down to Claudio on the phone about how everything is terrible and I just need cup holders. And then I like get it together and go to work and it's fine. And I come home and he had gone to like AutoZone and got one of those like Velcro cup holders that goes on the floor of the car. And I could cry about it even now because it was one of the most beautiful, like memorable. And it was like in a to-go cup that like didn't spill or something like that. But it was one of the most beautiful pieces of our marriage. And we didn't have the money for this $12 cup holder and we didn't have the money for the $10 cup. But he saw me where I was at and he met me and said like, we're going to make it fine. And those are the beautiful pieces. It's like money or not or things or not. And he still does those same things even now.
Yeah.
Even when it's not about money. I had a really bad day yesterday and he is typically very busy during the day. And like we text a little bit, but we really don't talk 9 to 6 p.m. when he comes home. Unless it's an emergency. And he called me like 4 times to check in. So it's those kind of things that just like, I don't know, that rebuilds it. But what was I circling back around on? There was something that I was telling you.
I think we were just talking about, like building wealth and everything. And I think what you hit on.
It was the Dave Ramsey stuff.
Yes.
So we started with that. And even now we circle back around. Every week we have a meeting together for an hour. We grab breakfast on Monday mornings. We go over our calendar together and just continuing to have touch points, whether it be financial or family or calendar or whatever it is. We continue to come together with a purpose. And I think that's what keeps us strong and moving in the same direction.
Yeah.
Not feeling like we're going like this.
Yeah.
Whether it be financially or not. And I think that's the most important piece.
That's good. And I want to go back to what you said about entrusting, like God has entrusted you with success and with the business that you have. And now that you've like built wealth together.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, so what she's talking about is if God can trust you with the little, he can trust you with the lot. And so a lot of times we have this perspective of when we don't have a lot, like, oh, I'm going to cling to everything I have and I'm not going to, but if God sees that you're willing to give when you have nothing, like Claudio buying you that cup holder, those little things like matter. And so little by little, like if you really can steward what you have when you don't have a lot and have that vision, like for God to provide, he will keep trusting you with more and more. And then, because he knows that you are also going to be generous with your finances because it's really not ours when we're submitted to God. Yeah. It's the Lord's finances and he's trusting you because, and I hear Claudio talk about it on Invest the Difference.
Totally.
He talks about he's building wealth for all his employees. Like it's not just him. He's like, I want to build wealth. I want everyone here to experience wealth. Yeah. And guys, that is huge. It's very
rare. I don't think you hear a lot of business owners talking like that. And I'm not just saying that because it's my husband. It's another thing that I think we learned on Dave Ramsey early on. He had this analogy where he was like, if you are truly walking in faith, trust me, he's not telling anyone to be negligent with his money, with their money. But what he does is he says you need to keep your hand open for people to put money in it and for money to go out. Because if you are clenching your money, and I think this is a very misconstrued church thing where people are like, I'm in a penny pinch and I'm going to spend all my time clipping coupons. And if you need to do that to be financially responsible, great, do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think piety is what we're called to always. And it almost becomes a god of its own when you're clenching your money so tight. Mm-hmm. Claudio is so generous.
Yes.
So generous. And he loves people so well and has such a heart for the people that work for him, with him. That's what Jesus did. Yeah. If you really look at how he walked through his life, it's never about the money.
Yeah.
It's never about the thing. It's the attitude in the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he exemplifies so well.
Yeah. And my pastor talks about that a lot. He says it's because you were talking about the church culture and the mindset of a lot of people, like money's bad,
Yes.
rich people are
That's
bad.
a good way to put it.
My pastor, he's like, actually, if you don't want more for yourself financially, you're actually being selfish, because that means you can't give as much to other people and need and you can't help more people. So it's like, if you don't want more for your life, it's a selfish mindset to be in. So if we have the mindset like, God is trusting me with finances because I'm going to be generous and help other people build wealth, and it doesn't mean like we can't have fun too with the money that we're making, but I think that is just a good mindset to adapt. I
always think of like mental real estate too. Like if anything is taking up too much for mental real estate away from Christ, whether it be thinking about how little money we should have or too much money, like yes, goals, yes, planning, yes, moving in a prosperity kind of way. But anything that's taking up too much of your mental state, having a relationship, having kids, having more money, having all the friends, having social media, whatever it is, like, if it's too much, it's too much.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
In check.
So I have 2 more questions because we're running out of
sorry,
time. This has been such a good conversation. I love it.
Good.
So social media, you're like, how did you, because you have like over 10,000 followers on your interior design site and everything. So how did this happen? Are you like intentionally like an influencer or?
Oh my goodness. You know, it's funny. It started, my mom is an interior designer. And so I feel like I didn't go to school for it, by the way. I'm definitely one of those but totally get inspiration from like Shay McGee and Sarah Sherman Samuel and all the goodies that also are not technically trained. That it just, so I saw her doing it. So I always feel like I had kind of a knack for it, did not have time for it.
Yeah. When
I was in medical sales because I was gone so much. But actually hired a designer to help me. I was like, I don't have time for this. Please come help me. And she was great. But there were some things about her processes that I didn't appreciate and wanted to shift, and was able to take the wisdom from that experience and change it for myself. So like where a lot of interior designers will just bill hourly, I felt like, oh my gosh, this person has like a blank check where they're just going and walking around Target and they're charging me for 5 hours of their time. And I'm like, I don't like this. It didn't sit well. So almost like a subcontractor, I'll go in and bid a project and say, listen, it's on me that like if I don't manage my time properly, I am going to be not profiting off the situation, which I thought was a little bit more upfront and more straightforward for people, and more people were comfortable. But I say that all to say that when I started the social media account, I truly didn't know if I was going to try to do more home design influencing or if I wanted to be more of a designer, and dabbled in both at different seasons, and was like, I really just love design. And not that I don't think being an influencer is cool, but really spent a lot of time like, okay, I'm just going to build this platform. I'm going to get my name out there and use that as a catalyst for getting clients. And it worked great. I'm so grateful for what it was.
When did you start that account?
My daughter was born in 2016, so probably 2017.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you've been for a minute. But that's impressive over the amount of followers you have on there.
Thanks.
Yep.
I will say the first year and a half, I was so intentional about it. And then once I realized that I really just wanted to design and use it as a platform to get clients, stopped being as intentional about it. So now it's just kind of there, and I love it. But like, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, CB2 like used one of my images and tagged me on their social media.
Oh, cool.
And I've had Benjamin Moore post my rooms before. So like randomly I'll get like 500 new followers in a day. Stuff like that'll happen, which is pretty cool.
So did you ever go through any struggle with social media? Like, is there any advice you have for anyone that like me that is out there on social media with a purpose?
Is there good social media advice this day? I don't know. It's interesting. So I feel like I did start the page like right on probably 6 months before there was a major shift on Instagram when like nothing else got you a ton of followers anymore. Because there used to be certain things you could do that would automatically get you like tons of followers.
Mhm.
Like if you were using all the hashtags and you were tagging the right people and you get reposted, it's like some days you would get 1,000 new followers. It was wild. Wow. And now I feel like there's something that has been fixed or changed in that where it's very tricky, or I just don't understand it, to be honest. A lot of people do TikTok. I don't have a TikTok, but I've heard it's very cool.
Yep, I'm on there.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's fun.
What's your TikTok handle?
It's Samantha Venue.
I love that.
It brings out my inner child.
I love that. I get nervous about one more platform to like steal away my energy and time. But I do think it's so cool, especially as a creative. Yeah. I do love the platforms for that, where you can see what everyone else is doing and you can just – I don't know. It's like entering a museum of design fun for me. Yeah. And obviously I have to be discerning about how I look at all of that and how much time I put into it. But I do think it's really cool from that perspective.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. We are kind of up on time, but I have a final question for you. So 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give to single people. What would it be?
I mean, I think it's a lot of what we already said. I think by far the number one thing would be meditating, praying over, getting in a place where you're waking up daily, you're finding your identity in Christ, and you are submitting to saying, whether you, God, never fulfill the desire of my heart, I pray that you would change my entire world, inner world, to be who you want me to be. I want you to get me. I want exactly what you want me to have for this day. I want to lean into whatever version of best you want to give me and have such peace in that.
Yes, that's good.
You know?
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just I don't even need 3. That's it.
Yes, that's beautiful, and that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he has really, really big plans for you.
Oh, thank you.
Truly.
Oh.
I think you have such an amazing platform here for Christ, and you're walking it out, and you can just tell there's an attunement there. That's going to be really beautiful to see how he walks through your life.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Welcome.
And I loved our conversation.
Me
I love
too.
connecting with you. You're so fun to talk to. And thank you everyone for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Where can our listeners find you?
Social media is one. Melissa Grace Designs with an S, plural.com. Is another one on my website, but also my Instagram is Melissa Grace Designs, at Melissa Grace Designs. So
awesome. Cool. We will find you there.
Thanks.
All right, guys, this is it. And we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.